I think we're having a disagreement here because I'm thinking the wants would be secondary. And it would be almost necessary to shift the want into a need to really get to where you want to go. So clarify what you mean there. What do you mean by the wants being primary? Educate me, my friend.
Yeah, so really good question. And the reason for it is because you're 100% correct. You've got to remember that if your mum or dad got locked up, you don't need to get them out. They need to get themselves out. But you want to get them out. So you find the money because that's what you want to do. The same as when you walk by a shop and you see a Rolex watch, or you see a nice car and you want to buy it. It's because you want to buy it, not because you need it. You can do without it. You can leave your mum in jail. Say, no, get the money yourself. I don't have the money. But she needs to get out.
Depends on the mum.
No, I know.
All right, man, let's jam. So I want to dig into how you built a franchise, first of all, to $2 million a year, and also how you were featured on Fox and ABC and NBC and CBS, right? So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and what your history's like?
Sure. Okay. I started in business when I was like 18 years of age. I got involved with an American franchise called ChemDry. We decided that at that time that I wanted to work for myself. I had previously done lots of things when I was younger, from 12, 13, 14, 15, printing business cards, washing cars, buying jewelry. I used to buy lots of watches actually. And I eventually got up to a Rolex. But it was very much a case of I used to love the buzz of, bettering myself. Buy something, then sell it for more than I bought it for, clean it up and stuff, and then buy something better. And of course, when I decided then that I was going to work for myself, I got involved with ChemDry. I bought one franchise, then I bought two franchises. And we started to see this grow quite rapidly. I say we because then I got my brother involved. And he bought a third franchise. So we had three franchises in Ireland, in Dublin, and it went very well. We worked a lot of hours. At that time, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we were, putting in, as they say, sow what you reap. And it was very much a case of, we were taught to work hard. And if you work hard, you reap the benefits of it. So later on, after about 10 years, I decided that I didn't want to be in the cleaning business anymore. And we decided to sell up. And as a result of that, we had established another franchise organization called Dino Group in the UK. And we brought in the security division of that to Ireland. Within about 6 months, we had realized that we were growing very, very quickly. Again, when I say we, it was the brother and I had done it as well. I'd started it firstly, and then I brought him in as a joint venture. So then he sold out of the cleaning as well. And then as we started to progress with that, we approached them and asked them, could we have the franchise for Ireland? And it continued to grow. Within a very short period, we were probably doing $500,000 a year. So it was like something that was happening really fast. Then we found that after about 4 or 5 years, we decided to buy another division in the franchise organization, which was plumbing, completely different, something I knew nothing about, but the opportunity rose. We took that in, we had that for about 2 years. We then sold that back to the Dino Group. And as a result of that, we acquired the whole franchise organization for Ireland. And we start then doing franchises ourselves. We built the brand. We had at one stage maybe 5 franchisees. We were showing them how to develop, how to run a business, how to become successful. I have to say at that time, it was for selfish reasons that I was building the business, because I was only teaching them what I knew, so they would pay me a percentage of what they got.
Right.
Whereas what I realize now is that it should have been the other way around.
Yeah.
I should have been teaching them helping them develop. But that's why I say I was an unconscious competent, because one, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just running with the flow. But I also had studied a lot of Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill. I had done Bob Procter, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, lots of Tony Robbins, in fact. So I studied lots of the personal development area and arena for a long time. But I found that I was studying the end that made me money, as opposed to the end that was developing my skills. So whilst I was developing my skills, I wasn't looking at it like that. I was looking at, I was creating an empire of income, and my beliefs were based on behaviors, were based around, when you have money, you can have everything. So when I hit about my mid-40s, I had established that, in fact, all this knowledge was of no use to me because I had created too many problems. I'd created myself. If I looked in the mirror, I didn't like who looked back at me. I didn't like that I was bald. I didn't like that my ears, were off center. I didn't like my nose bent. There was lots of things, but I didn't understand all that. I didn't understand why. I just thought that was just the way it is, and that's the way people are. And the business, I had 4 high court actions, which is serious stuff. I owed 450,000 to my company because I'd taken it out to buy properties all over the world. I had a revenue audit. I started to lose my hearing, and I had a terrible attitude. So all it is was a combination of I ended up with depression. I didn't know it at the time, but I just knew there was something wrong. And as a result of that, then I started to drink. And, I fell out with everybody. Nobody, it was my way or the highway. And I realized one morning, it was actually, in fact, my daughter had walked into my room and she had said, "Dad, I love you." And what was that all about? It was like a brick hitting my head. And that was when the turning point had come. I'd realized that, one, now somebody else knows there's something wrong, which that's not acceptable in my world. I sort out all my own problems. I didn't need anybody else to do it. But then at the same time, when I started to reflect on it, I started saying, Jesus, there must be something wrong. I have to change this. So I decided to change it. For 3 days solid, I spent thinking about my life, what I had done, how I had started, my success, money, houses, properties, cars, you name it. I was thinking of everything. And then I had come up with, when I was 17 and 18, I used to do all this personal development. And I loved it. And I said, that's what I need to do. I need to get back into that. So I opened the computer, started searching, and I came across a program. I jumped into it straight away. And within 3 months, I think from that day to the time of everything, actually turned my life completely around. I realized that I could be a happy person. I realized that it was my thoughts and my actions that were creating my results. And I realized that I could be a very effective communicator. And all of the training that I had done, I had gotten rid of all the court cases without spending money, without it costing me money. And it was just, when I got to January of that year, I think it was 2017, the 1st of January, I sat down to reflect on it and I went, oh my God, what have I just done in the last 3 months? And then I decided, I need to tell people about this. If this is what's happened in my life and I have grown up with my beliefs and my behaviors and how it has affected me, surely there's lots of people out there that need the same guidance. And that's what had happened. So that's how I ended up. I contacted a coach that was well known. I brought him in. I asked him for help. We sat there for 2 days in my office, went through absolutely everything. And he said, hold on, what do you mean you can't help me? I need help. And he said, no, you need to start teaching people what you just told me. He said, you've gone through a journey that people need to hear about. And that was like the light bulb. That's when the light bulb went on for the second time. And I realized now I've got somebody telling me what I need to do. And that's how I ended up in the personal development world. I now help people. I reach out to people if I see something, hear something, or even meet somebody that I see a problem with, or I can touch on where the problem is with them. Because let's face it, nobody wants to know they have a problem. Nobody wants to hear that, oh, you're no good at communication, or you're no good at making money, or you're no good at getting clients, or you're no good at running a business. Nobody wants to hear that. And that's where I was. I didn't want anybody to tell me what I was doing wrong. Why? Because I had a bad self-image. So I turned all that around. And now I like myself. I don't care that I'm bald. I don't care if my nose is bent. It doesn't bother me the slightest. I problem with video, looking at myself, seeing the reflection. But now I don't. Now it's like, this is part and parcel of who I am, and people's got to accept that. But I had to learn my communication skills to realize that I've got to know when to stop as well. I've got to know when to listen to somebody and be caring for them. And of course, now I can guide them, help them, care for them, and nurture them through some of the stuff that I have had experience with. And as a result of that, I managed to nearly double my turnover in my business. I got involved with a whiskey business, which, by the way, didn't cost me absolutely anything. I have a beauty franchise business as well, and I have a software business. So all of these things I wouldn't have thought I'm capable of doing. But also, when I used to do the added businesses on top of my security business, everything failed because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to do it for the money. So I was chucking.
Right. You're trying to chase multiple rabbits. You're not catching any of them. Man, you're getting out of your skill set at that point, your core competencies. That's interesting. Okay. Before we kind of go to the success aspect of it and the journey up, I want to talk a little bit more about what the hell happened that made you go from $2 million a year running a successful franchise business to drinking too much and looking at yourself as somebody who's not worthwhile, or having that depression and really being in that slump, right? So what happened? What took place from the success to the failure? And then we can talk about how you made that recovery and that ascent again.
Yeah, so that's when the 3 days that I spent reflecting, that's when I realized that where the problems had come in. So again, I've always been a confident individual. But what I had realized was that my confidence I was displaying to the world. But when I was on my own, I was a wreck. I wasn't a confident person. I liked my own time, and I just like to, be in a room to talk to nobody. I almost fear, meeting people, but I done it because that was business. Does that make sense? So, I'd go to a networking event, and I didn't want to do it, but I'd done it because that's what was driving the business. So then I'd leave and I'd spend time on my own and reflecting on my own. But the biggest problem was my self-image. It was because I had developed from when you look at Think and Grow Rich, I'd read that over and over and over again, but I had missed all the key elements in it. I had just, I suppose, honed in on the money element of becoming rich. And as a result of that, then I had focused on that. And what I had realized in the 3 days when I was reflecting was that I didn't like myself. And how could I like anybody else or the world? So I was critical of everybody and everything. I didn't like the world, the government, like if somebody drove by in a nicer car than me, I'd go, look at the state of, who does he think he is? Look at the state of him. I had a problem with everything. So I had a bad attitude. So I'd realized that I needed to change that. And I started to look at me, and I started to realize that I was the problem, not everybody else. And when I realized, or when I changed that, I changed my self-image. I changed the person that I was looking at. And the best way to describe it is when I started to realize that this process was possible, I started to look at people around me, and I realized that, when people go to work, they're a different person than what they are at home. It's because they portray themselves to be a different individual. But you've got to be who you are. Why would you want to? Yeah. And that's what I done. I start being me. So I start being happy because I like to have a laugh and a joke. I like to enjoy myself. But that's not what I was doing. I was going back and sitting in a room on my own and not wanting to be around people, not wanting to go out, not want to, even mix with my family. But when I realized that this is what was happening, I started to change the person that I was. And I started to picture the person that I wanted to be, which was normal, which was, a person that could be confident around everybody, but be caring as well. And not think that money could solve a problem. So if I had a relationship problem, I'd go off and buy a piece of jewelry for somebody and give it to them and say, there we go now. Now that'll sort that problem out.
Right.
But it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's the emotional. So it's almost like when you learn how to control your emotions and your feelings, you learn to be in control. And of course, then you can become, instead of reacting to situations, you can respond to situations because you're in control of your emotions and feelings. But I didn't know any of that. And when I learned how to control my emotions and feelings, I'm not saying you can do it all the time, but in most cases you can. And you can hold back or refrain. And then you can offer an intelligent answer to somebody.
Right. Okay. I like it, man. I'm wondering, and this is a huge thing is responding instead of reacting, right? Responding instead of that instant gut reaction from ego that is oftentimes disastrous, right? It can cause a lot of problems in your life. And so I'm wondering, what's your take on how you can shift that reaction, that natural instinct, that natural drive, that natural response to a calm and collected reaction. A response, so that you're responding to situations in your life, right? How does one go about making that shift?
If you had have asked me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have a clue. But now I can say that it is about control. It takes a bit of practice, but for sure it's controlling the mind. Because you got to remember that everything that you think creates an image. The image creates a feeling or emotion that's already in your subconscious, which is your paradigm. And that creates your action, which gives you results.
Mm.
So if we step back right up to the top again and we say, well, what you think about is what you. But if you respond to something, you're in control. But if you react, you're letting your paradigms or your beliefs and behaviors, which is your thinking mind, create the image that's already there from when you were younger or what you inherited from your ancestors. And you'll notice that you're a direct replicate of your brother, your sister, your mum, your dad, the way you speak, the way you talk, the way you sit and everything. So when you start to reflect on them and then you look, and that's not a bad way. That's not a bad thing, because that's just the way life is. But if you want to change it, which is what I wanted to do, well, then I started to look at changing my beliefs. So the way I did that, the way it's done is you change your thought. So if somebody said something to me, like say something like, oh, there's the baldy guy again. Like, oh my God, you call me baldy. No,
right, that's the reaction. Yes. And how do you shift that to respond? Right.
Whereas when somebody says that to me now, I smile. And I go, well, actually, now I know that they have a problem to say that. So I've realized that I'm now controlling the way I will react to a situation. So it's all about, it's like when you see two people arguing and you say to them, what are you arguing about? And he goes, I'm not going to let them away with that. You go, well, what is it that you're not going to let them away with? They go, well, no, he did this and he's not getting away with it. But what difference is it going to make whether he does it or not? And then they go, oh yeah, I didn't think of it that way. So it's like you're using your mental faculties: perception, reason, will, intuition, memory. And of course, when you look at reason, your point of view, perception, how you look at something. So it's very much a case of you're in control of your mental faculties, as everybody was given the God-given right to do. But it means that you're controlling them. So you step back. And of course, by doing that, you're allowing your vibration to stay high. Because when you lose control, your vibration's on the ground. But when you're in control, your vibration is high. And when your vibration is high, you attract what you want. Because when we look at our paradigms, you get up at the same time, you go to bed at the same time. You probably even sit in the same chair when you're watching TV. Now, if somebody sits in that chair, you go, that's my chair, get up. And they go, why? You go, I sit there. Why? Because that makes you comfortable. So that's the problem. We're comfortable being the people we are. But when you learn to be uncomfortable, you learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, well, then you start to be able to control your mind. I'm not saying you're going to control it completely, because when you're tired or something else could be going on in your life. But I just mean being in some sort of control to allow you to control your emotions and feelings. And then you're in control. Because you can then, if your vibration is higher and you're in a situation where it's a volatile meeting, but you're in control and not allowing yourself to react, and you respond to something, well, then you're in control. So you're almost, one, controlling the meeting, and then two, you can respond to it the way you want, because your vibrations are high. Whereas if the other person, they are out of control, so they're liable to say something that they don't want to say or they shouldn't have said.
Right. So what it comes down to is being, and Earl Nightingale says this in one of his programs, and I always found it so fascinating when you really dig into it. He talks about being objective towards oneself and subjective towards others. And naturally, we're obviously, by definition, subjective and objective towards others. But if you can switch that around, if you can really turn your mirrors to windows, as he puts it, and you'll be able to really activate that response instead of that reaction. And so I'm wondering, how does one really get that shift to take place, that from mirrors to windows? Like, if you were to give me a step-by-step roadmap from A to B to C, what would you instruct me to do to really get that response instead of reaction? Like, somebody comes up and says, hey, Baldy, then how are you going to shift that from reacting to responding? How would you instruct me to do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. The first is, let's look at, say, where somebody has asked me to guide them through it. So the first thing I would ask them to do is to look at situations where they've been in, where they have reacted and they felt like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I should have responded. Okay, so then what happened leading up to that? And then when you start to question that, you start to realize, well, hold on. It's because of my paradigm. It's because of what's currently in my subconscious mind is the reason why. And you may even go as far as your mom, your dad, or your brother or sister, and you go, oh my God, that's exactly what they do. They do it the same way. So now you've identified where the problem came from. Now you've just got to change it. So then you start to see yourself in these situations, but you see yourself in the future, but in the present tense. So you picture yourself being the calm, collected person, and you repeat this over and over again, like what Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill states, auto-suggestion. You play that auto-suggestion over and over again. And then what happens is when that is impressed upon the subconscious, remember like what I said, what you think creates the feeling and the emotion, creates the action, gives you the results. Well, again, we're impressing that upon the subconscious, which creates the new paradigm or the new habit. And then over time, you'll find then that you do become the calm person. And you go, oh my God, that was weird. How did I do that? But it's repetition. It's over a period of time. It can take sometimes, for some people, 30 days. Other people could take 90 days, 120 days. But that's where people give up. They don't stick at the repetition. It's a bit like somebody going to the gym and they say, I'm going to lose weight. Okay. And they go 3 times the first week and they're all pumped up. Yeah, this is going to happen. I need to do this. And then the following week, maybe weather gets a little bit cold and they go, you know what? I'm not going to go today. I'll leave it. Right. They go into the kitchen, open the press, and a bar of chocolate falls out. And they go, I'll just have one. It'll be okay. Next thing, a couple of days later, they go, I won't bother going to the gym. They open the press, bar of chocolate and a pack of crisps fall out. And then they eat them. And they go, do you know what? I don't think I'll bother going to the gym again. It wasn't working anyway. I wasn't losing any weight. Right. That's the paradigm. That's pulling you, sucking you back in, just you got to fight it. Persistence.
And Eckhart Tolle really talks about this. I don't know if you're familiar with Eckhart. He's a spiritual teacher, and he talks about really creating a space between yourself with a capital S, and your ego, your thoughts that come up. And so when it comes down to that little voice in your head saying, oh, it's a little cold today, maybe I won't go to the gym, or maybe I'll just have this chocolate bar that just fell out of the crisper. I'm like, I like to really just try, and it's difficult. It takes a lot of practice, but to really just observe these thoughts that come up, not attached to them. And it's tricky, man. It's easy to talk about, but when it actually comes down to the chocolate bar falling out of the crisper, it's so easy to just take it and chase that dopamine hit and that good taste. And it's like, then I just like to step back. Like you said, step back is I think a brilliant way of putting that. You take a step back and you just observe yourself, observe your ego, really. So that's the separation between self and ego. You observe your ego wanting to have that chocolate bar or wanting to skip the gym. And if you get that space between that thought, then you can really start to make that difference between responding and reacting. And I think that's really what we're talking about here. And there's a real spiritual element to it. It's fascinating.
So even if you were to say, like, where you have a business individual and they can't create income, or maybe they can't get clients, or, they're not making enough money. That's because they're caught up in their paradigms and they're stuck with what we call a thermostat. So they might, at Christmas, maybe they'll work a little bit harder and they'll earn more money. And then by the end of Christmas, they're exhausted. And then the thermostat goes back to normal for January. But when you learn how to work a little bit smarter and not harder, well, then you can create the thermostat to go up, because it's all about changing that paradigm, getting on the right frequency of what it is you're going after. But again, when you look at why people give up, it's because they're not looking. So if I were a business owner, or I was somebody who wanted to lose weight, okay, I would be creating the picture of what I'm going to look like in 3 months' time. And that's the picture I go over and over. So when I go to the press and the bar of chocolate falls out, I'd be thinking, hold on, if I eat this bar of chocolate, I'm not going to look like that person I want to be. So I'm not going to eat the chocolate. If I don't make contact with 10 more people, contacts, leads today, I'm not going to have the income. So I need to do the leads. So it's like what you said, you're creating the actionable steps in the middle of what you want and what you currently have.
And that really starts with having a very clear vision of what you want, right? So that you can move towards that. You have a certainty about you that just says that this is exactly what is going to happen. You're looking into the future and you're saying, yes, like I'm going to be happy there. Like that's where I'm going to have that comfortability with being uncomfortable, and it's going to be magnificent. It's going to be exhilarating and thrilling and fun, and all of these emotions that I'm not feeling right now. And that vision, that clarity of where you're going to be will really help you choose the right decisions moving back and day-to-day living, what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And so with what you're talking about with the thermostat is, and correct me if I'm wrong, how people will revert back to that comfortable level where, let's say they're making 10 grand a month and they want to hit 50K a month. They can go up, but then or they can it actually reminds me of the lottery thing when somebody wins $1 million but they're not a millionaire yet, just because they've got $1 million, themselves, they're not a millionaire. And so that's why all the people, or almost all the people that win the lottery, end up below where they were before, because they haven't made that their thermostat, like you put it, is still at that same level, right? And so I'm wondering, like, how does that happen, man? And how does somebody raise that thermostat level so that it's not at that comfortable level that they're used to, that familiarity, right? How does one raise that so that you're not falling back to that same level over and over again and going up this tumultuous journey?
So if we step back to the earlier part of the conversation, remember when I said you've got to have your vibration. So when you're in control of your emotions and feelings, you're able to raise your vibration. So in the event of me approaching somebody and maybe they said something that really got up my wick, and I was going to react to them, but then I decide, no, I'm not going to react. I'm going to be in control of my emotions and feelings. So I'm going to stay in a higher vibration. When you're in a higher vibration, you can operate on the frequency of your goal. So for somebody, it could be they want to earn 50 grand a month. They're only on 10 grand. If they're on the right frequency of the goal and they eat, drink, and sleep that goal, so in other words, that's what they're thinking about all the time, well, then the mind is going to be attracted to that. And you're going to get ideas of how to get to your goal. But if you're on the wrong frequency, and if you're allowing the external world dictate your inner world, well, then you're on the wrong frequency. You're not going to be able to stay on the right frequency. Your vibration is lower, and then you can't reach your goal.
Right. So how do you keep first of all, how do you know what vibration the goal is at? Is it just based on the thoughts? Like maybe I'm taking it too literally. When I think of a vibrational frequency, I'm thinking of a number like 428 hertz. That's the goal that I want to get to, but I'm sitting at 350 hertz. And so maybe I'm taking it too literally. I'm wondering, how do you raise your vibrational frequency so that it's at that goal level and keep it there? Because I find a lot of the time it's like I said, it's that tumultuous up and down. And so how do you really keep it at that level so that you can continuously move towards that goal without having these ups and downs, roller coaster feelings going on?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do, and I tend to do it, is like what I was saying to you about when you go in, you sit and watch TV and you sit in the same chair. Well, then it becomes the new paradigm. So I'll actually sit in different chairs in my home. My daughters and my wife are saying, why are you sitting there today? You were sitting there yesterday. I'm just moving around. So observe your paradigms, and don't if you want to be on the same frequency as your goal, well, then you've got to do actionable steps that's going to get to your goal. Okay. But also you're going to create new habits, which are new paradigms to allow you to get to your goal. So like what I said, if somebody's on 10K a month, okay, and they want to be on 50K a month, so we'll look and see what have you done to get to 10K. Now we need to multiply that, or we need to add new strategies that are going to be actionable to get you from where you are to where you want to go. Now, of course, they're going to be right outside. You're going to be stretched to the max because they're outside their paradigm. They're uncomfortable. They're going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This is going to be a roller coaster of emotions. But once you create the new habit, the new paradigm, that becomes the new paradigm and it replaces the old one. But you don't let the old one slip back in, because remember when I said the bar of chocolate, the packet of crisps fall now. If you let that happen, persistence, viewing the end goal. So for me to be on the same frequency of my goal, and I'll tell you actually a quick story. I decided that my beauty business, we started it in COVID, and we bought in a franchise organization for Ireland. We decided that we were going to move forward with it, right? And then we sat on our hands. COVID this, COVID that, and blah, blah, blah. Places are closed and all. So then I'd realized that, hold on, Barry, I teach people this stuff, and I'm doing exactly what everybody else does with this particular business. So I decided that I was going to get in the right frequency of my goal. So I sat down and I looked at what do we need to do to get this moving. In fact, it's a Portuguese company. I come over to Portugal. I met the guy and I said to him, right, here's what I'm going to do. I told him up front what I was going to do. So by telling somebody something, you almost have to do it. So then I went back to Ireland, and then we found the premises, and then we're now renovating the premises. That's what I mean about moving into the frequency. So now it's something that's not going to stop. But the only reason that happened was because I decided that I needed to do it. Other than that, I was going, it's going to cost me X amount of money to do this and renovate. And then by the time I do this, do you know what? No, I haven't got the money. If you want something bad enough, you find the money. That's the difference. People will find what they need. They tend to work for what they need, not what they want. But when you start to operate on a frequency of what you want, well, then it gets exciting because now you're moving forward. You're visualizing what you want. You're in that position. So then something comes up that tries to drag you back in. You go, no, I'm not going back there because I'm excited about this journey going forward. And that's the key to it, is being on that frequency, not allowing yourself fall into the vibration, a lower vibration. Because when you're on a higher vibration, you're in control. When you're lower vibration, you're out of control.
It makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, naturally with our emotions, we can't necessarily control our emotions. And so when you're on a down, like let's say something just happened, your girlfriend just left. Yeah. You something like that happened where it's like you're dealing with really bad shit that's going on in your life, right? How do you raise that vibrational frequency so that you're not just self-destructing at that lower level, right? Like how do you get it up there when actually bad shit is happening in your life?
Really good question, because that's life. That's exactly what happens. I have seen so many people, from very successful, very wealthy, having everything they want in the world, to within a short period of time having nothing. And it's normally as a result of something that has happened in their life. Maybe, it's a loved one they lost, or like what you said, a loved one leaving them and leaving them in the lurch. And it's almost like, again, it's more than likely as a result of their paradigms and their beliefs and behaviors, because like what I said to you, that's exactly what I was creating. And then when everything started, I felt falling apart. That's when I went, oh my God, what am I going to do? So most times the law, polarity, there's an up and a down, there's always what goes up must come down. That's the way it works. And so it's very much a case of you're always going to be having a downer. There's never going to be a case you can control that, but you can be in control of it. So for me, when I find now that I'm in a bad mood, or something's happened and it really gets up my wick and I get really annoyed about it,
right?
I put a time on it. I go, right, at 3:00, that's it. You're snapping out of this mood.
I love that.
And then you decide you're going to do something to solve the problem. So mindset is 95%. 95% mindset and 5% strategy. Okay, right. But most people do it the other way around. They have 95% strategy and 5% mindset. But when you create the 95% mindset, well, then that's when you're in control of your emotions and feelings. And that's when, like what I just said, if I have a downer, something's going wrong, I might get up in bad form and I go, right, by lunchtime, that's it. I'm out of this downer. I'm getting out. It's a bit like getting up and banging your toe at the end of the bed. Okay. And then walking down to the kitchen and dropping a spoon. You go, oh my God, I'm going to have one of them days. And what happens? You have one of them days.
Right. Because you looked at it like that, or you could look at it as though, I banged my toe and I dropped the spoon and now I've got the bad shit out of the way. Now the day is going to be incredible. It depends. Right. Yeah. So it depends how you frame it.
Exactly. Utilize what you're doing. Now it's gone. And you know what? I just banged my that's not going to give me a bad day. And then you turn it on its head. So, I could find that I walk into the office and something happens in the office. And I go, oh my God, this is what I used to. Oh my God, no. And then 2 or 3 days later, I'm still going on about what happened. You won't believe what happened the other day. I'd be telling everybody. But now I walk in, something happens. I go, right, give me an hour. And then I come back and say, right, here's what we do. Boom, 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 boom. And then that's it. And then I walk out in good form because I've solved the problem. Yeah, so as I said, I realized that 95% is mindset and 5% is strategy.
Let's say you start the clock at 3:00 and you're like, okay, at 3, this is, you give yourself some time to kind of ruminate in it and feel the feelings that are naturally coming up, right? 3:00 hits and you're ready to snap out of it. What's your process for really getting that snap out going? Like how do you do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you can do. Okay, so I'm going to be completely honest and open with you and tell you what I used to do. Okay, this is funny, but it was funny. I don't do it anymore now. But when I used to go into the office, I found my biggest problem was my office. So the security business is 24-hour, round the clock. Everything happens in the blink of an eye, because it's security. And we've lots of engineers on the road. So, stuff happens. But what I used to find was I go in, something would happen, and then I'd be in bad form. And it would it'd go on for days. Like I'd be taking it out on everybody. But now what I do is I had an alarm set up on my phone and it was just a smiley face. So at 11 a.m., at 3 p.m., and at 5 p.m., that alarm would go off. And all I do is look at it and I'd see the smiley face going beep, 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 beep. And then I'd smile. And that's it. Because it was changing my mindset. I just needed something to snap me out of it. For other people, I've seen where they carry photographs of their parents, maybe like
Okay.
that, or
Right.
their children, or their dog. Because you got to remember, when you're stuck in something and then you look at something, that's, you've automatically changed your vibration.
Mm.
It's a bit like when we say, when you go out with your mates, for a few drinks, you're laughing and joking, your vibration's high. You go into work on Monday morning, your vibration is low.
Mm.
So you just identify where the problems are or why, your vibration is dropping. And then you find something to trigger it. So I had a guy, I'll tell you another very funny one about me. So remember when I said to you that everything with my life was focused around money, for up until my mid 40s. Well, now I have a song and it's by ABBA called Money, Money, Money.
Right.
So when something used to happen, I used to sing that song, and it made me smile. Why? Because that's the person I used to be.
Mm.
So I'm happy that I've changed. So something happens, and then I turn around. Nobody even knows I'm doing it. It's still in my head. Money, money, money. And then I smile and I go, great.
Yeah. So what you're talking about there is really setting up anchors. What you'll do is you'll associate a positive feeling, or as you would call it, a higher frequency, to some sort of whether it's auditory, whether it's the Money song by ABBA, or it's the photos of the grandparents, like you said, or it's the smiley face that pops up on your phone. What these are anchors that you've associated a positive emotion to, and that you can access whenever you feel like you need to. So when you're down, you notice that your frequency is lower than it could be. It's not at an optimal level. You look at that anchor. You touch. People do it with pens. People will anchor a pen to a creative mindset, so that they only touch that pen when it's first getting started, when they're creative, and they associate that pen and holding that pen with creativity, with joy and positive feelings and high frequencies. And then after a little bit, your mind and your subconscious really starts to associate that pen or that song or that photo or that smiley face with that feeling that you've anchored that to, right? And that's fascinating, because that really gives you a certain amount of control that a lot of people will never have.
The other thing that I've used a lot with clients in the past is coin. So the coin is a gold coin, and it's smooth on one side and rough on the other side. Okay, we use this for somebody that might have a lot of anxiety, or somebody that might have a lot of stress. Because you got to remember that when it comes to, like, say, high performance decision making, people find it difficult to make decisions. And especially if there's a lot riding on the decision. So as a result of that, the fear, doubt, worry set in. And then over a period of time, if they have too much fear, doubt, and worry, that turns into anxiety and stress. And then that turns into depression, and depression turns into decay. That's the way the body shuts down. But when you learn how to deal with that and how to absorb it in the right context, well, then you can, so it's a bit like some suffer a lot with anxiety, find that they're very bad decision makers. If they suffer with a lot of stress, they're not very good at making decisions. They're all the time looking for somebody else to make the decision for them. So what I've done in the past is I give them a coin, and I'd say, put the coin in your pocket. Nobody knows what's going on. In fact, we use it for the response and reaction as well. So if somebody's an angry person and they're all the time, reacting, well, then what they do is they put their hand in their pocket when they're just about to say something, and they rub the coin. And if it's smooth, they say nothing. If it's rough, they turn the coin back over to hit the smooth side. But what they've done is they've just distracted the mind to the coin. So then they come back, leaving themselves in a higher vibration.
There's a few things that they've done there, man. I mean, that's the coin. This is incredible. Think about this. With the smooth side and the rough side, what you're literally talking about is looking at it from the other side of the coin. And even if you don't talk about them and bring that to their consciousness, what you're doing is helping them to, like we said, reframe that situation. So if they bang their toe, to use the example from earlier, they put their hand in the pocket and they feel both the smooth and the rough side. And they know that they can either look at that situation from a positive angle or from a negative angle, from a smooth side or from a rough side. And they can really get that control, that consciousness over whether or not they want to look at it as a positive thing or a negative thing. Like, oh, this day is going to be terrible because I just stubbed my toe and then I dropped the spoon in the kitchen. And it's like, oh, it's going to be the worst day ever. And then you start to attract that because that's where your vibes are at. That's where your frequency is at, right? Or you could look at it with the other side of the coin, with the smooth side of the coin when you touch it, and you say, hey, look it, this is I've got the bad out of the way for the day. Now the rest of the day is going to be beautiful. I mean, that's fascinating. Yeah. So there's and people say, like, look at the other side of the coin. So it's funny that you actually used a coin with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the relation there. Yeah. Yeah, no, look at it. It's just really whatever technique is the most comfortable. I had a guy once, and we were having a meeting, and he was going through a divorce, and his business went to the floor. So there was nothing happening, and he just said, "Look, I just need to get business. I need." And I said, "Well, what do you want?" And he said, "Oh, well, I don't know. I just need to start earning money." And I said, "No, stop talking about what you need and start talking about what you want, and then we can figure the roadmap and the guidance to get you there." But I had said to him, "Do you mind me asking?" I said, "What do you do for you?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "What do you do to put a smile on your face?" And he said, "Well, I don't have anything. I've lost my kids. I've lost my wife. I've lost my house." And I was saying, "Okay, that's where the coin came in." But I had said to him, "Is there nothing that you have done throughout your life that you may have stopped doing, in your older life, but you wish you had it done anyway?" And he said, no, there's nothing. And then we're in a hotel, and the music came on in the background, and it was Oasis. And they start playing, and he starts smiling. I said, "That music?" And he said, "I love them." I said, "Why do you like the music?" And he said, "I used to play the guitar when I was younger." And I said, "So why did you stop?" And he said, "Well, I had kids and all." And it was like a light bulb went on in his head. He realized that there was a connection with the music and the guitar. And this is what he needs to do. Because remember when I said to you about vibration? So that could be where he gets his vibration higher. It could be somebody else goes out on a cycle on a bike, because they're away from the phones, the office, the family, whatever. They have their own time. But it's whatever puts the smile on your face can sometimes get you back into higher vibration.
Right. So how do you find out which modality? First of all, it's going to be visual, if it's going to be auditory, if you got to feel the coin in your pocket, and which situation, whether it be cycling or listening to that song. How do you find out what is going to be really the trick for you individually, based on your memories, based on that unconscious programming that you've had accumulated over your life? What steps would you give me for finding out what that would be? What would be the best step-by-step process to finding it out for the individual watching, right?
So it is individual. It can be very different for different people, because music can have a profound effect for people. It can be very effective. And then something like going on a cycle for somebody else. So it's really identifying what it is that makes you smile, what it is you're happy with. I spoke to a guy there in Egypt, in fact, there about a month ago. And he was saying to me, "Oh, you need to help me. You need to help me. You need to help me. I'm in all sorts of trouble. I can't make any money." Blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, slow down. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I said, "Are you happy for to answer them?" He said, yeah. So anyway, start talking. I said to him, "So, what is it you do?" He says, "I'm in sales." I said, "Are you an effective salesperson?" He says, yes. But I haven't been lately. And I said, "So why is that?" So what I did was I effectively asked him a lot of questions, but I brought him to realize what the answer he was because he. So what had actually happened was, when he worked as a salesperson in his 20s, he was the top sales guy. Okay. And he used to manifest his results. So I said to him, "So what is the difference between you're 20 and you're now 40? What's happened in the middle?" And he said, "Well, I got married and I had kids and I got a mortgage and I got a house and I got a dog." And I said, "Exactly. So go back to the way you were. Start reinventing that wheel to come back to where it is now." And again, like what went on, he realized that there were his happy days. Like what I said to you, what happened to me? My happy days, I brought myself back to when I was happy. I questioned myself. When was I truly, really happy in my life? When I was doing personal development, when I was 17, 18, 19. So I brought myself back to that. And then, of course, you start to find the real you. Because like what we had said, stuff gets caught in the middle. The house, the mortgage, the kids, the car, everything, life just happens. But you've got to do stuff. Sometimes a bit selfish, because you've got to do it for you. And when you truly love yourself, you can truly love everything else.
I love it. Yeah. So what you're talking about is really going into flow. And, and I think that's the way to put it. And flow is fascinating. The way I know that I'm in flow, and this is, I think, how somebody watching could find out how to get to that spot for them individually, is they look back and they look for a few telltale signs of knowing when they are in flow. First of all, I noticed that, like, for example, when I'm talking with you, I'm in flow because the sign that tells me that I am in flow is that time kind of disappears. It's like time doesn't even exist anymore. I'm just in the moment, and hours can fly by and it feels like minutes. It doesn't feel like any time period at all. It's just like there's something magical that happens there. And so for somebody watching, I guess for them to find out how to get to that spot and really optimize their day-to-day work and doing things that they really enjoy is by looking at when they're in flow, when time disappears. What are some other things that they can look for that would really help them realize, looking back over their life? For example, with you, with the self-development, how did you know that was when you were happiest? And how can somebody look at their own past individually and find these anchors and find these memories that will help them snap into flow?
Yeah. So it's very much a case of, when I talked about what I'd done for 27 years, I was an unconscious competent because I was chasing my desire, my passion, which was money. Okay. But I wasn't doing it for the love of it. I was doing it for the money.
Right.
But when I stepped back and looked at my life and looked at my purpose and my own vision and purpose and what I wanted to really do, I started to get a connection. So like what you just said, it's like a flow here. I can feel a flow and I'm picking up your vibration. You're picking up my vibration. And allows us both to be on a higher level. So you mightn't even be thinking about the questions you're going to ask. You're just flowing. And again, I'm just answering as you say it. I'm not having to recite it or go through stuff to try and memorize it to tell you. And that's when you know you're in the flow. But you've got to remember that lots of people go through their life and then they find that they hit 70, 75, and the one thing they'll always say is, I have regrets. What do you have regret about? I remember when I was 40, I had an opportunity, but I didn't take it. Why did you not take it? And the reason was because somebody else guided them through not to do it. So it's a bit like, they had an opportunity to get a job that was going to double their income, but they didn't take it because they're going to have to move 100 miles from where they lived. Okay. They were going to be uncomfortable. And then someone else said, "Oh, I wouldn't live in that country anywhere. I wouldn't live in that county. That's not great. You're much better where you are." Yeah, you're right. You're right. Actually, that's right. Yeah. And then you stay there. It's like your mates. You go out for a few drinks and they say, "I'm thinking of buying a BMW 320i. Oh no, they're not a great model. I've heard bad things about them." "Oh, grand. Okay, no problem. I'll buy one." So you've let somebody else make your decisions for you. But yet you were excited about it. So getting back to the flow, it's all about your intuition, back to your mental faculties.
Right.
If you know it's right and you get a good feeling about it, well, then that's what you need to do. You're connecting with it. So I connected with my purpose, which is I wanted to help people, and it felt good. And when I'm talking to people and helping people, I feel good. I'm not doing it for the money. The money follows because I'm giving service. So when I help somebody and they get results, I'm excited. I'm excited for them. When somebody starts working with me, I'm excited for them because I know I'm going to be able to change their life, to allow them to get what they want, not what they need. So they become excited, I become excited. And of course, when you have excitement, you've got a higher level of vibration, which allows you then to be on the right frequency to move toward your goals.
Right. And you got to be careful of, Jim Rohn talks about this. He says, in the 30s, it would be the mantra of the 30s, he says, was, to be enthusiastic, you must act enthusiastic. Jim Rohn talks about that. He does it in his seminars. And he says, that's not enough, man. You got to actually take action on that enthusiasm. The excitement isn't enough in and of itself. You've got to take action on it and really flow with the course of action that will help you get to that goal that you want. And it comes back to being clear as possible in your vision, and really taking the course of action, using the enthusiasm, using the excitement that you have. And when it comes back to, like you said, like let's say somebody's thinking about getting the BMW 328i, and they're either, and you said that their friend would say, well, no, that's not a good car. I've heard problems about that one. It's also, and going to the course of life and what you want to do with your future, it's also not necessarily what other people would say, but it's also the internal conversations that you find yourself having. You'll have a part of you arguing with another part where it's like, yes, I'm going to go do this. It's going to be incredible. And then even if it's not an external person and a friend coming out and saying that, no, that you're better off where you're at, you have that internal voice fighting you as well, the same way that that mate would, right? So you've got that voice saying, oh, no, you're comfortable where you are. Or, you'll have these fearful thoughts coming up. And I find a lot of people succumb to that. And then they reach that 70 or 75 age point and they're thinking, man, I regret not doing that. And it's because A, your friends told you that it would be a bad idea, or B, you've got your internal voice, that angel and devil fighting, that clash, that civil war going on. And you allowed that negative frequency to really prevent you from moving forward. And so I'm wondering, what are some mistakes that entrepreneurs would make in terms of raising their vibrational frequency and having them stay there? What are some pitfalls, some stumbling blocks that somebody would run into when they're looking to do that?
Yeah. So what you've got, again, we're back to decision making. So most people don't make the decision. It's a bit like I'm talking to somebody about a coaching program and they say, how much does it cost? That's all they want to know from the time they get on the call to the time they get off the call. They're not even listening to what you're telling them. The minute you tell them the price, now they're going, no, I can't afford that. Of course you can't afford it. It's not something that you actually want at the moment. You think you need it, but then you say, oh, no, it doesn't matter. I'll go off and buy the books. I'll go off and buy the course online, and then that'll solve the problem. But it won't. Because when you look at, say, a seminar, you go to a seminar, a 3-day seminar, you're pumped up. You've gone to it. And you go, oh, my God, this was unbelievable. The best seminar I've ever been at. You want to hear this guy? Blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks later, then you can't even remember half of it. You've not done any actionable steps. There's nobody there to help you. Right. So something else happens. The car insurance comes in. The mortgage, focusing on that. So now it's gone. It's they say 5% of what we utilize, we miss out on the 95%, and that's because 95% is in our paradigms. That's in our the knowledge and all these strategies and all that we come up with. We never put them into play because they're not our paradigms. We haven't created the new habit. So if I were to do a coaching course with somebody, I make sure I get somebody who's going to be accountable, because what will happen then is they'll push me. They'll make sure that I'm doing it. And then if I do what they say I'll do, well, then I get the results. If I do it myself, I won't get the results. And then I'll tell everybody it doesn't work. But you haven't actually done what it said you were supposed to do in the first place. But that's okay. Because again, it's a bit like, some people can't make the decision. So then they decide to ask somebody else. Like what I said, you're talking to somebody about a coaching program. And so, yeah, I need to talk to the wife. Why do you need to talk to your wife? Oh, well, she makes the decisions on the money. Well, that's why the position you're in. That's why you can't make any money, because you can't make the decisions. But of course they need to talk to their partner. But we've got to bring them to a state to realize that this is why they're in the position. It's because they keep passing the buck. So when you look at, I say to people, look, does it feel right? Put yourself in a position of what it's going to look like at the end. Again, visualization. And I say, what's your intuition telling you? Is it right or is it wrong? Yeah, no, I've got a good feeling. Well, then if you've got a good feeling, well, then you know it's right. I've got to talk to somebody. I've got to let somebody else, make the decision for me. So then they're passing. The other person can't have their feelings and emotions. Right. They can't connect to that. Yeah. So that's why you end up with people that don't make the decision. And of course, they're comfortable. They don't want to be outside being comfortable. They don't want to be uncomfortable. So then they just don't do it. And I've seen that time and time again. But, for me, that's their decision. That's okay. I'm not going to push somebody into doing something they don't want to do. It's important. I will explain to them, I'll guide them through it, and I'll help them and say, well, this is what we can do. This is what the end picture is. And then you find they don't make a decision. And sometimes they come back to me 3 months later and they go, now I'm ready. I had a guy last week, a year ago, I spoke to him and I thought, that's it. And he sent me an email and he said, here's my credit card details. I want to pay a deposit. I'm ready. I went, oh, great. I didn't think I'd hear from you again. But that's just because, sometimes people end up in a situation in their life where they need to make a change, but that's the wrong time to do it. They got to want to do it, because when you want something, you'll have the passion and desire. And I say to somebody, if your mum got locked up and taken away by the police, okay, would you find $5,000 or $10,000 to get them out of jail? You bet your life you would. But if you wanted to buy a car, maybe you go, maybe. And it's a bit like, when you're younger. You walk by a shop, you see a nice suit or a nice watch or a nice pair of shoes or the lady handbag, okay? And then they start thinking about it and going, that's nice. Then they go back, they get the price on it. And they go, oh my God, $1,000. Oh, geez, no, I can't afford that. Then they go off. Then they start thinking about it again, going, yeah, no, do you know what? I think I'll find the money to get that. And they start visualizing, walking down, their friends and all tell them how good they look. So what do? They find the money to buy the handbag. And then they feel good about it. That's because they have created the desire, the passion and the desire to get what they want, not what they need. So that's where the problem lies with some people, where they don't have the passion and the desire to do what they really want because they're caught up in their old paradigms, focusing on what they need. The house, the car, the kids, putting food on the table, going to work every day, coming home from work every day. They don't get time. I've had people say to me, I don't know what I want. Yeah, because you've never thought about it. So that's when I say, right, go back to when you're a child. What did you want when you're a child? Oh, well, I'd love to be a footballer. Do you play football now? No, I had to give up. Why did you give up? Because I had to have kids. Oh, and maybe I'll go back and play football. Maybe you should, if that's what you're happy at.
Right. I mean, I'm wondering because, like, let's say your mom was locked up in jail and you had to find the $5 or $10 to really get her out of there. That to me seems like a need, and I find that people really act upon what they need, and the wants are almost secondary. And so I'm wondering what the dichotomy is there. What's the difference between the want and the need? Because there's some really serious power when it comes down to taking action because you need to get there, right? The wants, I think, and this is I think we're having a disagreement here because I'm thinking the wants would be secondary. And it would be almost necessary to shift the want into a need to really get to where you want to go. So clarify what you mean there. What do you mean by the wants being primary? Educate me, my friend.
Yeah, so really good question. And the reason for it is because you're 100% correct. You've got to remember that if your mum or dad got locked up, you don't need to get them out. They need to get themselves out, but you want to get them out. So you find the money because that's what you want to do. The same as when you walk by a shop and you see a Rolex watch or you see a nice car and you want to buy it. It's because you want to buy it, not because you need it. You can do without it. You can leave your mum in jail and say, no, get the money yourself. I don't have the money. But she needs to get out.
Depends on the mum.
I know. But no, it's all about again externally what you're looking at. If you're looking at something that is based around you personally, it's because you want it. But if it's based around somebody else, well, then you need it. Like you need to pay your mortgage, you need to pay your house insurance, you need to put food in for the children. But what do you really want? Well, I want to have $100,000 a year in my business. I want to have, I want to have a house in Spain. Okay, that's what you want. Well, then why focus on what you need and work for that when you can focus on your want, the bigger goal? Because like what I said, when you're in a higher vibration, the mind is going to be attracted. Look, the subconscious mind has the ability to accept or reject. Okay, so why do we accept negative? Why do you accept our lives the way they are when we could create what we want? So that's why we tend to focus on what we need as opposed to what we want. But again, like when you don't have a passion or desire to go with something or go after something, well then there's nothing there. There's no desire. But you can create desire. Like you can have, somebody once said to me, I had an 18-year-old man, he was at a conference with me, and he said to me, oh, this is great, you're talking about loads of money and jobs now, but any of that. And I said, well, what do you want? He goes, I don't know what I want. And I said, do you want me to tell you how to solve that problem? And he says, yeah. And I said, well, go back to something that you wanted before and go after it. And he said, oh, well, I'd love to be able to buy a car. And I said, well, what type of car? And he says, oh, a Mercedes. And I said, well, what color is it? And he says, black. And I said, what's the interior like? He said, leather. I said, what does it smell like? He says, it smells gorgeous. And I said, well, create an affirmation about that and start working towards it. Get yourself a job. Get yourself a second job until you get it. And then do it all over again for your next one. And he goes, oh my God, I never looked at it that way. That's because you're caught in your paradigm.
Right. So where it's actually starting there is you said to find out what you want. And so that is because he didn't know what he wanted, right? So if it's like, if you don't know what you want, then you want to find out what you want. There's a meta there. So if like, let's say you don't know what your goal is, then your goal is to find out what your goal is. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. I love it, man. I love it. So, okay. We've talked about flow. We've talked about how to raise your vibrational frequency. I want you to give me a step-by-step roadmap, kind of a recap of everything we've talked about. Like, okay, let's say I gave you a blank sheet of paper, right? And I asked you to write on it everything that would help me as an entrepreneur raise my vibrational frequencies, find that vision, and be able to achieve what I want. What would you write on that paper for me to achieve that and to get there step by step?
So the first thing I would ask you to do is do a list of your wants,
Mm.
what it is you want. And I'd ask you to maybe do about 30 or 50 of them. And if you do 50, I'd be really impressed. If you do 30, that's good as well. Because when people don't know what they want, they're not going to be able to write it out 30 times. But the difference is it will get you thinking. And you will start to think, well, what do I want? And then you might think about it for a couple of days. And now, because you're thinking about it, well, then the mind starts to attract what you think about. So now you'll start going, oh, there's a nice car. Oh, there's a nice, I'd love one of them. Yeah, put that down on my list. Oh, I'm living in a house worth $500,000. I'd love to live in a house for $2 million. Oh, put that down on my list. And then, after a couple of days, you might have 30, 40, 50 things. But now you go, do you know what? I'll break that down to 10. And then you break it down to 5. So you'll find out exactly what it is you really want. But people say to me, how do I know that? I say, well, what puts a smile on your face? It could be, somebody say to me, I work for my family. But that's you working for them. What do you work for? And they go, I work for my family. No, you don't. You do that because you need to do it. You need to start working for something for you. Like what I said earlier, you need to be a little bit selfish so you find out. And then if it's a case that you find that you've no desire, it's because you haven't, utilized it. And I would create an affirmation around that. So if somebody was lacking income or lacking money or constantly focusing on the money paradigm, and they had a paradigm around money, like what you said earlier about the guy winning the lotto. Inevitably, they end up 2 years' time with no money because the old paradigm has sucked them back in. Somebody goes on to X Factor and they're 12 years of age, and then all they're thinking about is fame and fortune and being rich and having everything I ever wanted in the world, and I'll buy cars and houses and buy my mum and my dad and blah, 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 blah. And then they win it, and then you never hear from them again. Why? Because the fame and fortune wasn't what they had pictured. The image that they had created in their head was only temporary. It wasn't permanent. But if they had grown up all their life wanting to be famous, and they had this image of exactly what they knew it was going to be like, well, then, of course, you're creating that. And then when you get there, you're used to it. So it's natural. It's normal. You're comfortable in that situation. So it's very much a case of creating the desire. I would create an affirmation. So for me, I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities and multiples on a consistent basis. Now, I would have never said something like that 10 years ago, because my parents would go, you can't ask for money. You can't do that. You cannot ask for money. But now I've realized you can ask for anything you want. And because that's what I talk about, well, then that seems to what happens. It's almost like you're attracted to it, because the mind focuses on what you think about. You're tricking your mind. You're putting yourself in the position of having already received it. Neville Goddard talks about it in The Power of Assumption, or the Power of Awareness. And he talks about already having the assumption of what it is that you want. So you walk like as if you have it. You talk like as if you have it. I'm driving around. Earl Schwab talked about this in 1968. And Earl Schwab was...
Jim Rohn's mentor, yeah.
Jim Rohn's mentor, yeah. Yeah. He was saying about, you read an article in the newspaper and it's a negative, derogatory article. And everybody tells everybody, oh, wait, I'll tell you what happened to your man down the road. But if somebody win the lotto, they tell nobody. Why? Because nobody wants to hear that. Because, oh, yeah. He had money anyway. He was always going to win the lotto. They say something bad about it. But when you look at Earl Schwab talks about, if you want a Cadillac and you want a red Cadillac with red seats in it, well, then what year is it? What model is it? Mm-hmm. How old is it? What value is on it? Because you got to be careful what you ask for. And I'll tell you a quick story. Going back about 2 years ago, I lost a hard drive for my computer. Okay. And on that hard drive was lots of stuff that I'd done. Okay. And it was got to do with my office. So I thought nothing about it. It didn't matter. Couldn't deal with it. There was actually, we had an audit coming up for the company, and everything that I needed for the audit was on it. So we failed the audit. So yeah, it was bad, but that's okay. So about a year later, maybe it was a year and a half later, another drive I bought, but it had all my coaching stuff on it. So I'd spent about 150 grand on coaching, and everything was on the drive. All my all my notes, everything, and I lost it. Okay, so then I said to myself, I've got to find this. So what was I doing? I was doing the 95% strategy, trying to find it, pulling stuff out, taking stuff, seats out of the car, trying to find stuff, couldn't find it. And then I went, hold on, step back, Barry. I need to create on the same frequency. I need to ask the universe to help me here. I need to be on the right wavelength of how to find this. So I stepped back and I said, right, I'm going to find this. And I could see myself picking it up and go, yeah, the excitement of it all. I brought myself to the emotions and the feelings of it. Okay. And so for whatever reason, then that was on a Saturday. On the Monday, I decided I'd go into the office. I don't know what gave me a notion. I went into the office and I was searching for a laptop cover. And I opened the filing cabinet and I opened the bag, and there was an ex-employee's bag of stuff and the drive was in it. And I went, oh my God, geez, this is unbelievable. I'm walking to me, this is unbelievable. And then I realized it's the wrong drive. That was the first drive. So then I went, I done it wrong. I didn't ask for specifically the drive that I was looking for. I just asked the universe to help me find a drive. So I started again. I said, right, here's what I'm going to do. I want to find my red drive with all my coaching on it. And I can see myself, it's going to turn up and I'm going to be excited. I'm going to run around doing the same. Yeah. So anyway, got into the car, drove home. I was wandering around the house and I went, do you know what? I'm going to go out to the car again. And I went out to the car. And I lifted up. I've been to this car 3 times and I take the car apart. And next thing I went into the car and I went over to the back and it was a little compartment and there was the drive. It was after falling down into this compartment. And I went, oh my God, my mind has blown. I'd not done it once, I'd done it twice. I just actually proven to myself on 2 occasions each people. And I was going, this just blows my mind. And it is exactly that. It's belief. Creating the belief in what it is you want to do. Because if you don't believe it, you're going to have to create the belief there first to make it sure that you believe that it's going to happen. And to create the belief, you need to do an affirmation, something, repetition over and over again. Like what I said, I didn't like myself and I looked in the mirror. So what did I do? I start looking in the mirror and I start saying, you're a good looking guy. You're a good looking guy. Now that was difficult. That's difficult to say when you're looking at yourself and you don't even like what you see in the reflection. But after about, I don't know, maybe it was a couple of months or whatever, and I went, you know what, you are a good looking guy.
Now tell me this though, because Jim Rohn talks about how he would prefer to affirm the reality of it. And I'm not necessarily sure where I stand on this. Jim would say, instead of putting a sign on your fridge that says, oh, I am wealthy, it's much more motivating to put on the fridge, I am 40, I am broke, and I am lonely, because that will motivate you to see where you want to go. That'll really bring up that pain. And with that uncomfortability comes that action. What do you think about that? Because you're on the other end of that spectrum, right?
Yeah, so it's very much a case of you've got to remember that's what you're comfortable with. But most times it's a bit like when we talked about intuition, okay? You're born with your beliefs and your behaviors, okay? You get them from your ancestors. So you'll find, like what I said, the way you talk, it's like your dad. And sometimes your mom or your brothers and sisters. And sometimes you make a decision on something and then you'll try to figure out, where did that come from? Why is my paradigm? Why do I have this? And you might go back to the generations.
The source, right? Yeah.
You might go back through generations to find that your great uncle done something and that created a belief and that came through the generations. But also when you're little, when you're a baby, you're like a sponge. You don't have a conscious. Your subconscious is wide open, and everything you hear, see, taste, touch, and smell is put in, and that's where you create your beliefs and behaviors as well. Remember that sometimes people make decisions based on their beliefs. So you can find. I had a guy once, and he'd said to me, "I'm very good with my intuition," and I said, "Okay," and I picked it up. I said, "Yes, you are." But what he was doing was he was making decisions for his business based on his beliefs, but he thought it was his intuition. Now, I always get a good feeling about that. I know that I'm making the right decision. I say, well, then why are you only doing 10,000 a month when you should be doing 30,000 a month? And he goes, oh, no, I've always made great decisions, but you haven't, because if you had, you'd be making 30,000 a month. So then he had realized that, when it comes to making a decision, you've got to not analyze, but you've got to look at it. Am I making this based on what I believe? Or am I making it based on what I feel? my real feelings and emotions, because your feelings and emotions are attached to your beliefs.
Right.
So
and then to take it up a level, it goes, this is the way I look at it. It's like, I call this the identity triangle. I got this from my mentor, Jason Flatterland. He says at the top of the triangle is identity, and then tied into identity is beliefs. And then underneath beliefs comes behaviors, right? And they're all intertangled. So if you identify as something, then you believe that you are that, and then your behaviors will be in sync with that, right? And so if you change your identity by reframing your beliefs, your behaviors change. And to me, that's unbelievably fascinating, because that really gives you control over whatever you want in life.
So I'll give you another example of that. So most people, when they want to change, so say their business, they want to increase income, they want to get more clients, they want to double their income or their business, or even just to start getting clients in business. What they do is they change their behavior. Okay, so they're caught what we call in paraxis. Paraxis is when you're caught in the middle of beliefs and behaviors. So neither of them are working. But what you need to do is you will change your habits temporarily. Okay, but you need to change them permanently.
Right.
You need to not only the behavior, the habit itself. But most people change the behavior, end up with a temporary result, and then they find they give up because the paradigm sets in and they end up getting nothing done.
Right, because they changed the behavior, but they didn't change the belief, and they didn't change their identity. So they're still, like, let's say someone wins the lotto, to go back to this example, they're still identifying, they look at themselves as somebody who makes 50K a year, right? And as they have $1 million in their bank account, they are still holding that identity of I make 50K a year, and their beliefs are congruent with that 50K a year identity. And then their behavior with that extra income, all that money sitting in the bank, still identifying as that 50K a year individual, they're gonna blow it, because like I said earlier, they're not a millionaire, even though they've got $1 million in the bank. Themselves, they're not a millionaire, right? And so when it comes back to affirmations that you talk about, what I like to do with affirmations is really take it up a level and bring it to the different modalities. We've been over this a little bit in this call. How, let's say you're affirming that you're going to have $756,342 by the time 3 months, 6 days, and 7 hours comes around. You make it very specific. I like to make it specific. And then what I'll do is go over how I feel in that situation, and what I'm hearing around me, and what that goal and that vision looks like in front of me. What it tastes like. Does it have a sour tang to it? Is it citrusy? Is it lavendery? What does it smell like? And you bring all 5 modalities, all 5 senses into not to say we've only got 5 senses. That's a different conversation. We bring the 5 senses together, and that really helps solidify that vision, and not only the vision, because you're solidifying the feeling and the taste and the smell and the sounds, and that really creates a full picture that you can really feel emotionally that this will be possible, that this will be a good decision, right? And so that takes me into the 2 options that somebody watching this has today. They can either take everything that they learned here today in the interview, in the information product, and they say, wow, I learned so much today. I learned the step-by-step roadmap to raising my frequencies. I know how to change my beliefs. I know how to change my identity so I can change my behavior. I can really move forward in a way that I wasn't able to move forward before. They could do that on their own, but it's going to be lonely. Like you said, you got to have somebody that's there with you, right? You got to have somebody that walks you through that process. That's going to be that solidified rock. That's like, hey, you're around your mates, you're around your friends right now, and they don't have maybe the same ambitions or goals, and that same nagging voice in your head that we were talking about earlier is going to hold you back. And by not having that external force, by not having somebody who really believes that you can do this, that you will be able to move forward with this solution, that third party being there really makes that difference. And so that brings us to the second option, which is working with you. And so I want to talk about what that kind of entails and what that would look like and feel like moving forward.
Yeah, so it's very much a case of, in most cases, there is a small percentage of people that will, be capable of doing all this on their own, but there's probably a 99% percentage that won't. They say they will, but they won't, because again, life happens. Things get in the way. It's, if you remember, how many courses you've ever bought, how many books you've ever bought, and what benefits did you get out of them? And you might say, yeah, I've read that book. but you might have read it, but you didn't put it into actionable steps. So the reality of it is that 99% of people probably won't put what they learn into action steps. And that's why there's so many authors that do so many books, because you end up, not utilizing it. So they could write 4 or 5 books and they're all similar, but it's just because books sell. But a case of when somebody's interested in what I do, we give them we stand over, we chat to them, we find out what their problems are, and then we'll tell them straight up, look, we can help you or we can't. If we can help you, here's what the process is. Here's what we can do for you. Is that what you want? If they say yes, well, then we can move forward with that. It's just a matter of jumping on board. Be a 15-minute strategy call, and then that would see if they're a good fit. They might not even like me. That's okay. I might not like them. That's okay as well, because we're all not perfect. So again, a lot of stuff is about vibration as well. If I feel the right vibration with somebody, well, then I know it's going to be a good fit. Because when you're on the right vibration, you're going to be open and honest. And that's what's important. Because then that means that I will pick up if there's a problem or an issue, or they're stuck, or they hit a brick wall, or they've got a problem, some other issue going on. Because sometimes you can find that it could be the self-image, it could be the self-confidence, it could be their the income. It could be that they're just having relationship issues. It could be weight loss. It just so many things that could be a problem, but they don't see that. But that's what I see. And that's where we tend to be able to help them, because we focus on what they want, not what they need. And we identify what they need and want to do to get there. That means then that you see results. Everybody gets results. I get results from them. They get results from what they need to do.
Okay, I got you. So, tell me more about the product. And it's not a product; it's a solution that you work them through step by step, and it's through Bob Procter. Am I right?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about it, man. What's the product? What's the solution?
So basically, like what I said, this is the same program that I did going back when everything changed in my life. And what I found, what everybody finds, what attached me to it was that not only is Bob Procter one of the most humblest guys I've ever met, no hype surrounding him. So there's no hype surrounding his materials. There's no hype surrounding him. It's not about, pumping somebody up and, getting them on a high vibration and telling them, you're going to be like this forever and your whole life's going to be so happy. Of course, it's about happiness, health, and wealth, creating abundance. But life happens. And that's what I said. It's how you deal with it and learning the techniques to how to control that, whether it's relationships or whether it's your own issues or whether it's your business issues, whatever the issue is. The program starts off with goals, and it goes up to 12 different modules, right up as far as, decision-making, gratitude, attitude, beliefs, behaviors, how the mind works, the self-image, confidence, persistence, procrastination, and right up to the top where we talk about masterminding. Because again, when you meet so many various different people, you get them on the same wavelength so that they can be in the same vibration with other like-minded people. And of course, they're, in the right relationships, you can work with somebody for forever. Like the relationship for me with a client really never finishes. I always like to think that there's, I'm there for them and they can always be connected in some way.
Okay, I like it. So you're inviting them to a community, and it's a 12-step program where they get to connect with like-minded individuals. They get to be around people who believe in themselves, and so that you will be able to believe in yourself, that believe that this will work for you. And I'm wondering, so after 12 weeks, they've gone through the program, a lot of Bob Proctor's material, and you're walking them through step by step in terms of what they can do in actionable steps and giving them the tactics and the strategies to really take their lives and their business and their mindset, their frequency to the next level, right? And so what is their life going to look like? Let's say after the 12 weeks is done, what are they going to be able to do that they can't do now? How are they going to be looking at life in the ways that they're not looking at it now, maybe?
I suppose it's the best way to answer that question. It's a bit like, ago, I had a client who actually came through the program in COVID last year, the second bait of COVID. And he came to me and he decided that he wanted to change direction in his life. So when he first came, he was confused. He was an entrepreneur, he was an inventor, but he was confused. He didn't know what to do. He's at a crossroads in his life, where to go, what to do with his life. So anyway, the program brought him through where he was able to make decisions and move forward. So he contacted me a couple of weeks ago and just said, can I have a quick call with you? No problem at all. So we jumped on a Zoom and I said, so tell me, how's life been? And he goes, like, life is fantastic. But he says, I've just changed my wants a little bit. And I said, well, what is it you want? And he said, well, I was telling you I was buying a house and stuff like that. Well, I've decided now I'm going to look for a piece of land and build my own house. And I said, well, fair play to you, well done. And he told me where it was, beautiful part of Ireland, and an expensive part of Ireland, that's okay. Sure. I had asked him questions, what's it look like? And, how do you believe you're going to get there, and getting on the frequency of the goal. And I said to him, look, just jump back into lesson 7, decision making, and do a quick recap on it. I said, you're going to be there. So within a couple of minutes, he had said to me, Jesus, he said, I've just realized something. And I said, what? He said, my friend is going through a divorce, and he contacted me last week, asked me, did I want to buy a patch of land off him? And he said, now I'm just relating that conversation to the conversation I'm having with you. I'm talking about building my house on a bit of land, and here's a guy offering me a bit of land. Why did I not pick that up when he rang me? I said, because you're allowing yourself to fall back into your old paradigms. You're allowing yourself to fall back into your habitual behaviors. You need to continue to keep your vibration high so that when opportunities come by you, you realize they're there. Because that's what happens with us. When we're in our day-to-day habitual behaviors, stuff passes by. Oh, no, I'm too busy. No, I can't do that. No. But when you're in a higher vibration, and that could be sitting on a beach. They work sitting on a beach. Why? Because they're visualizing their outcome. And then they're going back after the holiday and putting the actual steps to get them there. But he had just missed that part because he got caught up. And again, it was like a light bulb going on. He went, oh my God, I've just realized I do have a patch of land that I can buy. Oh my God. So he went off and then he sent me a text later on. He goes, oh my God, unbelievable. He says, this is all working out. And I says, but you just need to keep going with it. The material is there for life. It doesn't finish. Yeah. So life happens. If you find that you end up where, you need to make a decision, well, then go in and look at lesson 7. If you find that, you're creeping back into your paradigms, go back in and look at lesson 3. If you find that your self-image, that, you're starting to criticize yourself or be critical of something, jump back into lesson 5. So it's there for life. And I've done that. I'll tell you a quick story. Okay. Really quick story. I was last year, it was last year. I set up a company called entrepreneurssuccess.com. Okay. And I was saying to myself, this is brilliant. Entrepreneurs, this is what I teach. This is what I help. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, I set it up. I'd spent maybe 5 or 10 grand getting the whole thing together, websites, blah, 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 right? I registered the domains and, .com and the whole lot. So what happened was I got a letter in the post from a lawyer in California to tell me that I have now taken their trade name. And unless I give them the rights to the name and everything that's associated with it, they're coming after me. And I went, oh my God. So for about 2 days, I was in a downer. I was exactly where what we were talking about earlier. I was in one of them downers and going, oh my God, I'm going to lose my business now. That's it. And they're going to sue me, because this is where I was before. This is exactly like what happened before. So then after about 2 days, I went, cop on, Barry, get a grip here. I jumped back in. I listened to lesson 7 about decision making. And now here's what I'm going to do. So I picked up the phone and I rang them. And I went, okay, what's the problem? They said, oh, you can't do this. That's our trade name. I said, but it's not. They said, no, we're going to sue you. And I said, listen, I am very knowledgeable with domain names. I'm very knowledgeable with trademark names. I've done this all my life. So I now know that if you want to fight me, it's going to cost you about 20 or 30 grand. That's fine. Or else you can give me 10 grand and you can have it. Take it or leave it, one or the other. She goes, oh, she was arguing with me on the phone. You need to take it or leave it. Good luck. Oh. A week later, a letter came in. We've decided to drop the case.
Nice.
Now, that was me responding to a situation. But if I was reacting, which is what I would have done before, I'd have picked up the phone and started screaming and shouting, I'll sue you.
Right. So what they're going to be able to do when they go through the program is they're going to be able to first of all, be able to respond instead of react to these situations, right? So that think about all the extra stress that they have right now, they wouldn't have if they went through this program. If they've gone through it 3 months from now, they've gone through the program and they're able to respond to things instead of react. When stressful things arise like that, they're not going to be walking through them with that reaction that oh no, I can't do this kind of a mindset. It's like, no, I can respond to this. I can go back to the module. I can remember what Bob and Barry taught me. And I say, hey, this is a totally different person that I was 3 months ago, right?
Yeah.
They're also going to be able to change that, going back to that identity triangle that I was talking about. They change their identity by going through this program, right? They're either going to be able to do things that they weren't able to do with their old identity. They change their identity to a new, better version of themselves, which changes the beliefs that held them back, helps them identify those beliefs and really realize why those beliefs are not true, or that they are true, that they were just looking at them wrong, and they can flip those negative beliefs into the positive counterparts. And that will really help them change their behaviors and move forward as an entrepreneur in a way that they weren't able to before. All right. So I'm wondering what the investment is like here, because the earth is 24,000 miles around. You got, it's not going to be $1 million. It's not going to be $100,000. It's not even going to be 10 grand, right? What's the price point on something like this?
Yeah, so $6,250 is what the 6-month program is. And again, it's access for life. We set them up where it's access. The program is accessible all forever. It's not, you're not terminated after the 6 months. In some cases, or in most cases, people stay on and they do the cycle again. So they go back through it another 6 months because it gets better. Their goals get bigger, their confidence is better, their decision-making is better. And when we talk about the program itself, reaction and responding is only one element of it, because again, when you learn how to control, the mindset to do what you want to new way that you look at your business, your lifestyle, your relationships, you learn how to find out how the mind works, the conscious mind, the subconscious, and you're connecting all the dots together, which allow you then to bring that forward. And you become a better entrepreneur. You become a skilled entrepreneur. I had a guy who's just finished actually, and he's an estate agent and he has his own business, but now he's teaching it to his employees because he's now got the knowledge that he needs, because his mind was blown with the way he can control his because again, he's sometimes can be very stressful, as he said himself. He can get and he can say something that he didn't mean to say, whereas now he feels like he's in control. And now he wants to share this with the world as well.
Right. So he feels in control. He feels like he's competent and able to do things that he wasn't able to do before. And with that feeling of wow, I can do this, that I am going to move forward in a way that I wasn't able to before, that I'm going to go now. That comes with some sort of an aura about you, some sort of a confidence level and an appreciation for life and yourself and your abilities that you didn't have before, right? And so
what we call a paradigm shift.
Right. And so you get
shifting your old paradigms. Getting rid of your old unlimited beliefs.
Right.
And of course, as a result of that, then you're starting to see the results that you want, because you're able to now be a much better communicator, a much more effective communicator. I've seen people lose weight as a result of doing this program. I've seen people, give up addiction with alcohol, with drugs. And it's purely because it's the mind. It starts in the mind. It's a habit. All these things are habits. And when you learn how to control the habit, well, you're in control. So, like we said with the earlier when we talked about use some sort of trigger. When you think about the habit that you want, like think about picking up a cigarette, well, then find a new habit to replace that. When you think about cigarette, pick up your phone and look at a picture or the coin or whatever the case may be to show you up.
You'll help them become that new person, because Jim Rohn talks about this, how if you want to have a new result in your life, it's not about doing new things. It's about becoming a new person, right? Yeah. Becoming the person that kind of a thing, that kind of a result is a very natural reaction for that person. And so you'll help them become a new person, change their identity, which changes their beliefs and changes their behaviors, and will ultimately send them down a new path, a path where they can feel better about their future, to help them really clarify that future and give them the support over 6 months. I thought it was 6 weeks, so 6 months. And you'll be walking them through that process as they go through the 12 segmented program with Bob Procter and with yourself, and they'll be able to really become that new person at the end of the day. So that's fascinating. So tell me this, Barry, what about some free bonuses that we can give them that will entice my audience that other people wouldn't get, that the people watching here in this platform, they're watching in the gallery and they can see that they can get an offer that nobody else can get? right? So what do you have for us in terms of some bonuses that you can add for us?
Yeah, so the first thing we always do is we'll give them one of Bob's books. You're Born Rich. That's probably one of the most important aspects of Bob's stuff, because it gives you an outline of what you need to be doing. And again, like what we were saying about the books, they tend to be good for information purposes. Again, I have my own book called What They Don't Tell You About Paradigms. And then we can also offer a training, I suppose, the 13 Principles to Success, which effectively is almost similar to Think and Grow Rich Napoleon Hill, because it is about 13 Principles to Success.
Okay, I got you. So that sounds like some things that other people can get if they're signing up, off the street, some random guy. But I'm wondering what you can give my audience that's specifically for them. So I'm wondering, do you have any challenges that you've been able to give some people? Do you have any, like a manifestation course, some sort of these are the things that you can give specifically to these people watching that nobody else would be able to get, right? So what do you got for us in particular?
Yeah, so I suppose, well, that's pretty good. I probably would jump in with I do have a manifestation course, and it's pretty good because it tells you exactly. It's almost similar to what we've been talking about in a different context, because when somebody starts talking about manifesting, you almost say, get out the white coats. That guy is off his rocker. He's talking about, he's going to create something in the world. You can't do that. Well, you can. And it's only when you realize, say, when you look at something like that, you actually realize your train of thought, how you can change it to start manifesting what you want. And it brings you through that process of, pushing the rock up the hill, because that's what we do. We fight against what we want. We're going after what we need. So that's like pushing the rock up the hill. But when you start to realize that you go with the flow of it and you allow it naturally to happen, well, then that can occur when you're in the right vibration. So it's almost like all of these things are connected in one way or another. And the reason why most people don't think they are is because there are beliefs. But when they establish that, in fact, there are ways you can. So the manifesting one would be pretty good, and I'm happy to throw that in.
Okay, perfect. And you're doing a free consultation for us, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to walk them through, and they can book a call now and see if it's a good fit for them. And if it's not a good fit for them, there's only one way to find out. So you're willing to do a free consultation, 15, 30 minutes, however long it takes for them to really see that it is a good fit. Or if it's not a good fit, they walk it through with you. And worst case, after the free consult, they're in a better place than they were before they got started, because, hey, now they're able to look at it from your point of view. They get your take on their business, and both of you can decide if it is a good fit, right? And so
I suppose that's the advantage of me and working alongside Bob. So Bob has obviously 60 years of being in the business. So this is like a proven method, his program. And again, like what I was saying earlier, what attracted me to it was that it gives you permanent results, not temporary results. If you follow it, it gives you permanent results. So there's not many programs out there that can do the same. So that's the one advantage. The other advantage, the second one, is with me, because I'm in business 31 years. So I currently have a $2 million business. I have other businesses that I'm involved with. So I have seen lots of things. I'm very efficient at marketing. I can add and give on top of the Bob Procter stuff that is almost like an added bonus, in fact, because I throw it in for free. If I see a problem, if I jump on a call with somebody and I see a problem, I'll tell them. I'll give them value. If they don't work with me, that's fine. At least they know now what their problem is and what they may need to do. They might not like me. Well, then great. But just go off and get somebody else to help you with it. But just don't not do anything. Do something, because at least then you're going to move forward. And that's what's important for me. I give something to somebody, but I don't give it to get back. I give it for the love of helping them to move forward.
I love it. So yes, you're going to help them. We're on the free consult no matter what. If it's a good fit, then they move forward. And if not, they get some free value from you with your 31 years of business, multimillionaire. They get to speak with you and really connect with somebody that will help them with their business, whether or not they want to move forward. Fascinating, man. So what about a guarantee? Is there some sort of a money back guarantee if they can try it out, they get in? And so tell me about how that works.
Yeah. So again, this is what the important aspect is, that we do give a money back guarantee. And of course, this is why I jump on the call. If I don't feel that somebody on a call has the desire, passion to do it, well, then they're not going to stick with the program. They're not going to get the results. I'm not going to be happy with the results they're getting, and they're not going to be happy with it either. So whereas when we find that somebody wants to do this, they want to create the results in their life, well, then the money is not important, because it's like what Bob says. You can look back with a telescope from where you were to where you're going to go. And in 6 months or even 3 months' time, they will look back with a telescope and go, oh my God, I've changed so much in that period of time. But that's what it takes. And if I find that somebody genuinely has that interest, I put my neck on the line and say, yeah, I'll give you a money back guarantee. You follow what I asked you to do and follow my guidance and Bob's guidance, which is the most important aspect because it is Bob. And follow the guidance that he gives and you will get what you want.
Awesome. I love it, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And you've had dinner with Bob, right? You're good friends with Bob Procter. And so you'll be able to work with them on a one-on-one basis through Bob. And that's, I mean, you can't get that kind of an opportunity, right? So I appreciate you offering that to us. And in terms of how long this will be available for, how it generally works is 7 days since you started watching the interview here today. You've got 7 days to take action on this. Book the free consult. Worst case, you get some information and some insight on your business that you didn't have before. And Barry, if they book the free consult, I'm wondering what they're going to be able to do and what they're going to be able to get from the free consult themselves. Would you be willing to give away your manifestation course to the people that just take advantage of the free consult? They get on the phone with you. If they see that it is a right fit, then they move forward. And if not, they still get the manifestation course?
Yeah, no, I think what we do is probably better if they jump on the call. We need an incentive to get them on. But, if somebody is serious about changing their results, well, they'll jump on the call. And then, of course, if they decide we're not the right fit, well, then look, they've got a course to follow through afterwards to change the results that they want. So yeah, I only work with serious people. I don't. I've had people come to me and they're chasing money, like what I used to do. And it's the wrong. It's all about service. The more service you give, the money will follow. The more people you provide your service to, no matter whether you're a plumber, electrician, a coach, a consultant, a doctor, whatever that is, the more service you give to the more people you give it to, the money then follows. And that's and when I find that out, and when I pull that out from somebody and I realize that they are a giver, they genuinely are a giver, well, then it's going to be a good fit. If they're not, well, then look, I'll give them the value, I'll tell them what they need to do or need to know. And that's fine. They can take it away and off they go. That's fine by me. But I generally only prefer serious people that want to change, because then they'll do what you ask. They'll follow the system. They'll follow Bob's system. And as I said, there is other bonuses there with Bob throughout the year. He'll do lives and stuff like that where they'll get access to WhatsApp groups and the Facebook group. So there's lots of little bit of bonuses as well.
Right. So they can really start to network and build joint ventures and find people that are in their similar niches that are obviously interested in similar things. They connect with those people. They're not working as a one-man crew anymore. Us as humans, you look back at our ancestors, man, they're not single solo people that are just doing everything by themselves. They lived in tribes. They had symbiosis and synergies with each other, right? Yeah. And by having that community, by being able to get access to other people who have taken the step to make such a large yet valuable and worthwhile investment, they are able to connect with other people that were saying, hey, I'm serious about this. I'm going to move forward with this in a way that I didn't think that I could before. And that's interesting too. And you bring up the point about different industries and different niches. And I'm wondering, would this be relevant to any entrepreneur who's in any niche, or would it be specific towards one person in particular? How would that work in terms of the demographic and psychographic that you're targeting here?
Yeah, no, look, there is, I suppose, everybody finds themselves stuck. So coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, business owners, it's relevant to whatever you're stuck with. That's basically what it comes back to. You'd like to say that there's a particular individual, but there's not, because when I look at where I was stuck, I considered myself an entrepreneur, making money, but I was still stuck. I was stuck in life. And then you could have somebody else that's stuck with communication. You could have somebody else that's stuck where they can't, else that's very good at their money and their business, but they can't expand it. They just can't figure out how to scale it. So there's all different avenues that you can look at, and it's the the 15-minute call that will establish whether it's going to work or not.